Good evening, or good morning, or good afternoon, everybody. It seems like evening here. Hope you're all having a fantastic day. Today's really a gorgeous day here. I think spring has finally started to arrive, and I actually think I heard some robins this morning. Could be my imagination because I want spring so bad, but I'm sticking with it. Um, Now today we're going to be doing this cute little shamrock. The traceable for it, if you want to play along with me, is in the description below, and you can download that for free. And we're going to be using 140 pound of watercolor Strathmore cold press paper. Shamrocks, of course, we're just going to be using some different greens, and I think I'll probably put this as a clay pot. You can put whatever pot you want in that. Any color, really, you can use. You could put a decoration on it with some stencils, all kinds of stuff. But first, I would like to, I did get some watercolors, and I was waiting for these for quite a while. I had to get them from the UK. They don't have them here yet. And that's the Schminky watercolors, and they're the new ones that are very granulating. They're the special edition G. Says G edition. That's all it says. And I got 5 of them. Now you can get them in sets. For me, I didn't want to get them by the set because there are some colors that, for me, I just wouldn't be using that much. So I picked the ones I wanted, and that is the this one here is Deep Sea Green. This one is Tundra Violet, and Forest Brown, Forest Blue, and Glacier Green. So I thought these would be really awesome to try out. So I think I will start off by just swatching some of these, because I haven't swatched them yet, because I thought I'd wait for you guys and see what they're like. Let's see, I did have a paper here somewhere. Let me find it. Yep, here, just got a piece of paper here. And I am just going to, I should clear one of these sections out. So just hold on while I didn't get a paper towel. Come on. All right. Just gonna wet this paper towel and clean a section up off of here. And I may, since there's a lot of greens in the ones that I did pick, I might just use that for today's. We'll see what the colors are like. So like I said, I haven't used these yet, so this is fresh out of the tube. Hey, Janet. So I'm testing these new paints I got to see how much they granulate, the Schmincke. Let's see, I should bring you guys in so you can see what I'm doing. This one's called Tundra Violet. So I'm guessing it's mauve and browns, maybe. We'll see. I'm just going to put a smidge. You don't need much. These are very pigmented. And we'll add some water to that. Oh, it's a really nice, deep, grayish mauve. Be a very nice shading color. Let's see how much it granulates. Oh, I can see the granulation in the pan. Wow. Hey, Tori. I almost bought a small set of those this week and talked myself out of it. Yeah, I saw the sets, but I don't think I'd use some of the colors are so close in the color that I don't think I would really use them all. So that's why I kind of picked my own. Jackson's Art had them separate, so you could get them. This one is Glacier Green. It's a very nice, I really like that. That's beautiful green. Let's see what it does with a lot of water. And just a bit. It's really nice. I like that. There's gray or maybe even a mauve. It's hard to say. This one is Forest Brown. Now look at this. Look how they separated. The brown and hurry up, Chloe. Chloe's coming in. So they do have a great separation. So this one is Forest Brown. Oh, that's a nice green. Now this one's a little watery. Shouldn't have put so much water in it. Stick a little bit more paint in there. See what happens. I do see a lot of granulation. It seems like depending on the amount of water you're putting in it, sometimes there's something about Schmincke. Yeah, I've never had Schmincke paint, so this is my first. They're hard to get here in Canada. Okay, this is a beautiful color. That was deep sea green. I don't see the green in it, but it's a pretty color. And this one is forest blue. Okay, I'm going to wipe this up a little bit. I might get some more. There was I think the ones that I seem to go towards was the Tundra. I had some Tundra ones, but they didn't have them in stock. Oh, this is a really nice shade too. Very unusual shade. See, that's what I look for in paints too, or something that's very unusual that you don't find too often. Let me put your Chloe here right in the way again. Turn that light off so it doesn't glare as much. Yeah, that's better. So as you can see the brown separating from the mauve color, but it's really a nice granulation. And look at that blue one. Oh, granulated. There's the green one. Now it's not dry, so it's yet to leave granulation in it. Move it around, it does. It does granulate. This is a really pretty green. This is a forest blue, I would say. It does have that look of a lot of vegetation that you see, hostas, that type of thing, is this blue. Now you could also mix some of these together. That would be cool to get different variants and different color shades. Hi, Nancy. You get, maybe you should get some that I don't have, and then you can enable me for the other ones. There's how many is there? There's 4 to a group or 5 to a group? I can't remember. But I think there's 4 different sets that you can get. These are nice. They are very granulating. Now that they're starting to dry. So look at that. It'll be interesting. We'll check on them when they're fully dried. Just put them aside here. All right, so I'm just going to wipe these because I don't know what I'm going to use yet. I could use those, but you guys haven't got them yet, so maybe I should just stick to a simple palette of green, yellow, maybe a little bit of blue. All right, so here's the little painting that we're going to be doing today. And like I said, if you look in the description, I did put it in before I came on, so you can download it right now if you want. Oh, let me see what everyone's saying. Uh, oh, yeah, Schminky? They're not bashful about slapping a big old price tag on these. But I know they are. They're not cheap. So that's why I kind of went through them all. I watched a few videos where they were swatching them and showing how they moved and stuff. And that's how I based my purchase, was on the ones I thought that I would use the most of. So I was figuring landscapes, flowers, that type of thing. So that's why I'm more or less stuck to the blue and green, with just the exception of the mauve one, which was so different. Hey, Dorothy, good to see you. Hope you're feeling well. Things are going good for you. So, this is a shamrock plant. It is not, a lot of people mix these up, the shamrock and a clover. They're totally two different plants. Shamrocks, normally shamrocks will have only three uh, petals, I guess you could say, or leaves, brackets. And then they have a really, it's kind of a pretty little flower. It's a white flower that sits on the top usually, and they're usually a nice little mound. You can also get these in a really deep burgundy color with the flowers of white, and that's really pretty. And the neat thing about shamrocks is during the day, they're almost like an umbrella. They they'll end up folding. So these little individual little leaves would fold up together, and then they fold down onto the stem. And then when the sun comes up, they go up again and unfold their leaves. It's really cool. If you've ever seen one, things getting better all the time. Oh, good, Dorothy. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, clover too. I don't know if you've noticed, but clover usually has. Now there's different types of clover, but the typical clover that you see has like a round ball of either white and pink flowers on the top. There's also a clover that grows into some grass that's got very small leaves, and the flowers are yellow, and they're like, I think, four petals of yellow. Yeah, I don't know. They're hard to find, the four-leaved one. I remember as a kid in the schoolyard looking on the ground for any four-leaf clover. They're so weird back then. Okay, so if you are going to paint along with me, what we're going to do, uh, you can do this in many ways. You can either have the background, like you can see through this plant. So you can either have the whole background kind of a mottled green color, or you can uh, paint around the background and leave it. Or you could do the whole background say a very soft blue or whatever color you want, and then paint over top of that once your background is dry. So there's different ways of going about painting this one. So if you're going to do the background, do it first. Don't worry about any of this here. Now, if you want the flowers to remain white, you'll want to put some Frisket on it to protect them for when you're doing the background color. But other than that, you could pretty well put any color on there. We'll be using a lot of greens and blues and yellows for the leaves, and the stems are kind of a olivey, light olivey green color. So it's up to you. So just take in mind that if you're going to do the background all at once, make sure you put in these little flowers because they're white. All right, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by putting a small bit of color in just in this one area, not going past it too much. And I'm just going to use this bigger brush here, and I'm just going to uh, be careful around this flower here. So I'm not going to put too much water around where the flowers are. Try and protect those. I'm just doing this one area though. I'm not going to go too far outside the edge. So there's another little flower there and here. Now you could always just quickly remove, if you get any paint in those areas, you can remove them as long as your paint isn't too staining. Okay, so I got a fair amount of water on there. And I'm just gonna take some, I've got Hooker's green here. Because it's a background, you're gonna want that fairly dark. So I got Hooker's green, and let's see, I better put some, I'm just putting some water on some of these paints. I didn't spray them, I should have. And I should have brought my card up to know what they are. So, now this is a fairly light green or very limey colored green. That's going to be good for mixing in. And a nice olive green. Almost a gold green, I think. And maybe yellow. Over here. So I've just got those 4 colors. Make sure that this is still wet. I've got a little bit of yellow on this. Let's take just a little bit of green. Just color in some of this, just a bit. Down the bottom areas, though, I want it fairly dark. And it could be modeled because a lot of shamrocks are toned in different shades of green. So don't be scared to throw some of this dark color on. And we can always go back and paint those smaller areas too. Okay, so I'm just gonna let that run around. And you can just take your brush if you don't want some areas. Now I've got a tilt on my table, so that's why you're seeing it. Let's blow dry that just to get it a little bit drier, or it'll take forever. So it just got most of it out. So I'm just gonna move some of that. It's not showing as green. It's showing more gold in screen. I hope you guys are seeing it better. So I can still see my drawing underneath. And I'm not worried about that showing through because my colors are going to be kind of on the medium to dark side of things. Hey, Debbie, good to see you. So now, see, it just still wet. I think I should dry that so I can paint on top of it. All right. Well, now let's put some, I think I'm going to wet one leaflet at a time. So just so that it doesn't dry on me. So I'm just going to wet this area with clean water. And this one is the one that's out front. So it's going to be probably a little on the lighter side maybe. So I'm just going to dab in. Might be darker along the bottom part here. I'm just dabbing in. Then maybe let's take some of the other green and we'll just put that in there. And let it do its thing. We can always go back and put more coats in. Let's do this one. I'm just wetting the area. Now I'm not worried if I go near this area with my wet brush because it's going to be the same green. So, you know, if I was doing a totally different color, then I wouldn't want that seeping into each other, but I'm not. So this is kind of a really easy one. for you guys, beginners, to do, because it's not really really defined by, you know, certain colors have to be certain places. You can pretty well make up anything you want on these ones. This one here is the top part. Wet that area again. Make sure you don't have pools of water, so you don't want a big blob of water. I'm going to make that one a little bit darker because it's sitting back. I'm going to still add some of this other color to it, but I'm just going to play with it a little bit, not a lot. Maybe add a little bit of yellow on the end, see what it does. This one could use a little bit more. So just play with them, see what comes out. So find all your prominent ones first. So let's do this one here. So it's got sun green on it already. Now you can just scrub it a little bit if you don't like something that's on there. And let's put some green there. Maybe some of this. A little bit brighter green up here so it's not the same as the background. You gotta remember your contrasts are important when painting. You don't want the same hue. If you're finding it hard to see how much if it's the right hue, do it in black and white. Do a copy of your painting in black and white. So scan it into your computer and change it to black and white. And that will show you your hue ratio and whether or not you need to lighten areas or darken areas. Let's do this one. Now, myself, I like doing the wet into wet in this type of thing because it's not something that has to be a certain color in a certain place. They're modeled. Now, if you were doing something like a parrot tulip that had defined sections that were different colors, and then yes, you would have to do wet into dry painting instead. You can just play with it. This is a great way of learning water content and pigment load. So you really can't go wrong in doing this one. As long as you do just one leaflet at a time. You should be good. And this is also a great way of seeing how certain paints react when you're doing it wet into wet. This can be just the first layer if you want, or it can be the last layer. Okay, where else? This is one here. And I'm kind of mixing all of the colors up. Go, Coco, stop. Go lay down. Go. This along here might be a little bit darker. Put a little more in there. And let's see, maybe some of this. Kind of green gold color. I'm upstairs in my office. They put my watercolors up here so I could be upstairs. Sometimes with these dogs, they're so spoiled. They don't like being downstairs, so I don't know why that bugs me, but it does. I feel sorry for them, like they're gonna miss me. It stops me from being downstairs. It's so crazy. And then they sit underneath my feet. And in here, right now, both of them are right underneath my feet. Crazy dogs. I'll put some nice bright green there. And this one here, I'm just going to take any pooling away. I don't want a lot of pooling of water. So if there is any, just dry your brush off and then swipe it. You just want it wet, not pooling. See, I think I'm going to put brighter colors up there on the edge. On there. And maybe some of this bright green in the center. Packed class and looking great. Thanks, Debbie. Have a good day. And let's do this top one here. Maybe you want them different than what's behind them. You don't want it too similar. So the traceable, remember, you just don't have to use them for watercolor. You could use it for coloring page or even acrylic, mixed media. The yellow in here on the top. Dark. Guys, lay down. Or you're gonna have to go out. No, don't start. Now these will dry up a lot lighter, so you have to remember that too. All right, so I have one back here in the shadows. So that one's going to be quite a bit darker. But you can still make them mottled looking. But I want it definitely darker. So we're going to go into this color here. And I might put another coat on it. Let's see. Where's my drawing? Okay, and then this here, let's put this one in dry. Now another class I think I'm going to be showing you is negative painting in watercolor. I don't know if you guys are interested in that type of thing. Let me know in the comments. I like negative painting. I think it's really interesting. As long as you have a pattern, it's not that difficult. Right here. And with the negative painting, you can also do more wet and to dry paint. So I just add a little bit more pigment load to that. And that, you gotta remember, this stuff always dries lighter. I think I got them all. And let's see, there's some, how there's some really hard edges on this one here, right in here. So you don't really want hard edges. So you just take your brush, a wet, clean brush, and you kind of pat that area down a little bit with your paintbrush, and it'll eventually move, and it softens the edge. Okay, this one, it's almost dry. Let's put in, let's see, maybe, I think we might put a different green right in the bottom here. So let's darken it with a little bit of ultramarine blue. Get this wet. I want a fair amount of it. And then a little bit more of this. You want it just a little bit different than your greens that you were using, but you want it fairly dark. So it's kind of a blue-green, and I think I should dry it first. All right. I was just noticing up here, it's pretty defined, so I'm going to brush that out a little bit so it's blended in a little more. Okay. So let's put in some of this background. So I'm going to use dry brush now, so wet into dry. You just fill in the spaces with this darker color. So in between the stems. All right, to make enough so you don't have to make too many batches. And then just do the bottom area, that's the darkest area. And you just use the very point of your brush. You can use a smaller brush if you want. I always stop talking when I do intricate parts. Like, you have to stop breathing and talking. So this is good practice for fine detail also. Do some of this type of painting. That's the inside of the pot, I guess. Let's see, probably a little bit here. And there. Now I'm going to lighten that a little bit more with some water. And I'm just going to go above it with a lighter color. Just around where all the leaves are. Just so that the stems are more defined. But it's not the same color as the bottom area. A little bit lighter. Go around the stems. There's a little bit of a lip of the pot showing there on the bottom. Right here. Here a bit. This is actually around the flower here, but it needs it. We don't want it the same, so we can distinguish between the flower and the stems and everything. Now you may need to go around certain areas twice if it's not dark enough. But it does make a difference. And this is in a way negative painting. But the one I'm thinking about showing you is multi-layered negative painting, where you're only making the leaves by painting around them. If that makes any sense. There. Now when you get to this type of situation where you're you're coming out into an open area, paint where you have to, bring it out. I'm going around the leaf here and the stem. We'll probably bring it out like that, and then I'm going to wet my brush with and keep it clean. No, nothing's on it. And then I'm just going to bring that to a smooth transition. I might have to scrub some of this area that I put in earlier, but I have a smooth transition going out. Sometimes you have to work at that, depending on your type of paint you're using. Some paint stains a lot more than others. Okay, and then bring it down. So it's getting lighter and lighter because I'm keeping with the color that's out here. So I'm just going to add clean water to my brush, not anything on it. And as it goes out, it just gets lighter till it fades away. Okay. And here, sometimes you can just use the color that you're scrubbing to bring it up into your, you don't need to add any real paint on your paintbrush, just use what's on that edge. You would, Tori? Awesome. Okay. I'll get that planned out then. It is fun. I really enjoy doing it. Can be a little tricky, but I'll make sure to have a nice pattern for you that you can refer to. Or you could actually put on your pattern and work around your leaves that way too. That's probably the best way of doing it, especially if you haven't done it before, because it can get a little bit confusing. Let's see. I think I'm going to put a bit of this color in here. Another thing, when you're doing backgrounds like this, when you're crossing over, changing the value, you can't stop. See, I can't stop there with that value and not put it over here. That's called a tangent, and it's a big no-no in art. You always continue the color into the other side of whatever you're putting it up against. So this is wet anyways. I'm just going to, and it doesn't have to be a lot. It can be just a very minute bit. But as long as you put a little bit of it over there, that's all you need. Let's soften this edge up here. We'll bring it down. These are white flowers, so I'm just bringing it down into the petals a little bit. Alrighty. Well, see, that's kind of looking strange there, so I think I'm going to put some of that in there too. That doesn't look right to me. it was too light. Didn't match what was going on. So that means that there has some. There, let's see, what is that? That's the stem too that I missed. It'll have to be a little darker right there. Okay, we'll see how that looks in a minute. That one I think I goofed up on. See how this and this is the space here. It should have been that dark color, part of the leaf. And let's put dark color in there and in here. That's better. And take some of this off. It's got very hard lines, and I'll just take that color again, put it in there. Then over here, I want some color because of the white flower. I'm just going to put this green around the white flower. And then take clean water, just go along the edge and soften it. And that in there needs to be done, so very soft amount color. So there's very little color that I'm using here, but it's a good way of learning tone. So your tonal value of just a few colors and how it works. You just have to pay attention to the contrast that's around it. You don't want it all the same because it'll be very boring then. So let's clean water, blur the edges. On this one here too, I should have it darker because that's a white flower. I'm just gonna blur the edges. Bit of dark in here. I think I need a little bit darker in there. Uh, There. This has to be a little darker on the bottom. Now I can't have completely dark on there, so I have to watch what I'm doing. So I might take a little bit of that off. Just put a smidgen on the top here. Let's see. I think that needs to have something in there. Clean up some of the edges if they're got some tattered lines on it. All right. This here got some hard lines. I don't want hard lines. I'm just gonna take those out. All right, we'll let that dry and let's do this clay pot, I guess. So we want a terracotta color. So let's see what we got here. And we'll put it with this green. This is raw sienna, I believe. And I just had a little bit of green that I mixed it with, which kind of darkened it. So right in here is going to be dark. And I think I will, again, take out any hard lines. I don't want lines. Got a really wet brush, so I'm just putting up quite a bit of water. And these will do the whole thing. Water it. And then we'll go back over it with some more high pigment. So this is, got to remember these dry lighter too. Is that because if the color of the shadow or just balance, Kathy? Tori, is that what you're talking about, tangents? Yeah, well, what it is, it's kind of a both, actually. It's the color, it just doesn't look right in the mind's eye when you have, say, a leaf coming up and one side's got a real dark color to it, but the other doesn't. Now, there's other things you got to keep in mind. Now, if there was an actual shadow being cast by that leaf, then yeah, you can put it in. And a shadow, especially from a leaf, would probably have a really hard line under it. So it would register as a shadow. But as far as something like this, or you're changing a gradation across your page in some way, you're going to notice that section right away, and your eye's going to really look at that part. So it's just an aesthetic, I guess you could say, too. Um, Whatever you're putting on one side of something, you shouldn't stop there. Continue it, even if it's a minute amount. Continue it on to the next side. It's just more appealing. It's part of composition too. Um, you once you do more and more, you'll see what's pleasing to the eye and what isn't. I don't know if that explained anything. It goes with also when you're lining things up, when you're actually doing a drawing, um, or how could I explain this? You're doing it, it involves every aspect, every type of art. Is if you're having things line up, I'm going to explain this. They also call it a tangent if you're, okay, let's say this tip of the flower lined up with the edge of this leaf. That would be called a tangent also. So it's always more pleasing to have it offset from a similar line. So these are two vertical elements here. But if you were to line this point up with the edge of this, it wouldn't be as nice looking, I guess you could say. So you always have to think of things like that. So, and you never see this point? The point went into the flower instead of ending at the edge of the flower. Thank you so much, because I don't see details and shadows I'm having to learn. That's pleasing to the eye of others. Oh, yes, I forgot about that, Tori. Yes. So yeah, you really have a whole different way of having to learn this. That's interesting. Well, if I ever can help you with anything, just message me. Try and do my best. All right. So now we're gonna let's dry this. I don't want any blooms on this, so let's dry it a little bit. Okay. It was pretty well dry, but I didn't want to take any chances. All right, so this is going to have, there's a little bit of a rim on this clay pot. So I've got a fair amount of pigment on my brush, and it's not watered down. So I'm just going to take it, and this is wet and to dry, and I'm just going to run it along the bottom lip. And then I can take my wet brush and soften that line just a bit, not a lot, but just a bit. Then I'm going to just add a little bit more in while it's wet. Like so. While it's still wet, I'm taking a clean wet brush, not a lot of water on it, but I don't want a hard line here. I'm just going to go under there and clean it up. All right, now with the edges, it'll be a little darker. We can just add a little bit on there. And under, if there's any overlaps of leaves, you can do that too. I'm just going to kind of roughly use the side of my brush and dry brush it. See? And you can do the same for the edge of here. Remember the shape too. So you might have to curve your brush a little bit to give that indication of that this object is round. My brush isn't very wet, so pretty dry. Now I added some water. I'm just going to go under here. On the bottom it would be a little bit darker. And I'm going to put a little bit more down here. All right. Now I want a little bit more concentrated just for the very, very edge down here. And maybe I'll put a little bit more under here. Bring it out a little bit. Okay, we'll let that dry for a bit. Now let's do these, now that actually the stems are a real limey green, and they have this little sheath or whatever you want to call it, where the bloom is. So I've got that. I think it's gold green that I'm using. I think I got them all. I want a fairly concentrated amount on my brush. I'm just going to go underneath here with that real concentrated amount. And down there, just to kind of shadow it. Just underneath the stems. Then, let's see, I think I'm going to do some of the inner stems. I'm just going to glaze those. Just, I think that's part of the flower. Just going around the okay. Now, the little, there's only one of these flowers that are open, and then it's in a bright yellow. So I'm just going to dab some bright yellow right on there. And then you can add a little bit of that sienna with it and just do a few, let them mix. Gives them a little dimension. Now, with white flowers, you can either give them a blue tinge, a very, very pale blue tinge, or some people like using a gray. I've seen purple used, like a mauve. It's up to you. I think I will put just a very faint blue, and I have some bluish, almost a gray. And I'm just going to really water it down, and then just underneath and down, if there's any closed ones, I'm just putting stripes in this open one, like just by the center. And this one here, so it would be a little bit of a shadow in on the bottom parts. If they have any folds in them, maybe they might. This will be fairly light once it's dried. I'm just using the very tip of my brush. Soak up a little of that. Too much. Okay, now I want to put a little bit of that same blue on the bottom here as a shadow. And I'm just gonna use clean water to combine them into that green there. And then I can add a little bit more. It's actually darker shadows. There's actually darker closest to the object. So you can add a little bit of, let's see if I can get this a little darker. Might have to wait till it's drier. All right. There. So that's it so far. Thanks, Dot. Now, we could actually put moss on the pot if you wanted to. And that's just to basically throw a little bit of green on. You could, sometimes there's this white, I don't know what it is, chalky substance that you see on the pieces. So I think this rim has to be darkened though. Someone's calling me. I don't know I'm streaming. I'm going to darken that rim a bit because it would be dark because of the flat of the leaves of the shamrock. So make sure that's good and dark. Like so. Let's try that. All right. Yeah, it's pretty well dry. There it is so far. So you can see the flowers. Everything is pretty well done. Now you can always tweak it and add other stuff you want. If you like it just as it is, then leave it. There's nothing wrong with this. If you want to tweak it a bit, you could add more shadows. You could add more detail to the shamrocks if you wanted to. I know they do have a little bit of a center line. Maybe you'd want to put that in. But yeah, it's endless what you can do with these. And it didn't take that long. And there's only, what, 1, 2, 3, 4 colors that we did for the whole thing. So I hope you download the Traceable and give this a try and play with it. Doesn't matter if it's with colored pencils. It could be mixed media. I could go on top of this with colored pencils to finish it up. There's no rules to this. Just have fun, enjoy the process, and get out your stuff and experiment. So I hope you enjoyed this, and leave a comment below on what you want to see and what you thought of it. Comments are really important for streamers because most of the time we're all on the stream, so we don't think of commenting. So leave a comment. And if you're new and you'd like to see more of this, don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell. And we'll see you on Thursday. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet on Thursday, but it should be interesting. Okay. Have fun, everybody, and we'll see you later. Bye for now.